Yul Brynner sat motionless on the magnificent sorrel stallion, watching John Wayne study his horsemanship. With the critical eye of a man who had spent 4 decades separating authentic cowboys from Hollywood pretenders, knowing that some tests of masculine credibility could only be passed through demonstrations that revealed capabilities developed far from studio lots and acting coaches. September 1960, Brackettville, Texas, 6 miles from the Mexican border where Wayne was constructing his Alamo set and America's most beloved cowboy was about to discover that authentic Western skills could emerge from the most unexpected backgrounds when necessity had been the teacher instead of tradition. If you're fascinated by untold stories where Hollywood legends tested each other's authentic capabilities beyond mere acting talent, subscribe for more hidden moments where mutual respect was earned through demonstrated mastery that cameras couldn't fake. The dusty plains surrounding Brackettville stretched endlessly under the merciless Texas sun, creating landscapes that had witnessed genuine frontier history rather than manufactured entertainment. This was real cowboy country, where cattle drives had moved through generations earlier and where modern ranchers still earned their living through skills that Hollywood westerns could only approximate through careful choreography and multiple takes. John Wayne stood beside the corral fence, his massive frame casting shadows across ground that had been packed hard by decades of authentic ranch work. At 53, he remained the undisputed symbol of American masculinity, but his authority here went beyond screen presence into territory where genuine cowboy skills separated pretenders from the real article. This was his element, his natural habitat, the kind of environment where his authenticity was unquestionable and his supremacy was rarely challenged. "Son," Wayne said finally, his legendary voice carrying the weight of someone whose opinions about Western credentials were considered definitive by anyone who mattered in the entertainment industry. "I've been watching you work on that magnificent 7 picture, and I'll give you credit. You look good on camera, handle yourself well in the dramatic scenes." The comment was delivered as acknowledgement rather than praise, recognition of professional competence. Without enthusiasm or particular respect, Wayne was being polite to a fellow performer, but his tone suggested that politeness had its limits when the conversation moved beyond acting ability into questions of authentic, moody Western credibility. But looking good on a movie set and understanding real cowboy work are 2 entirely different propositions, Wayne continued, his evaluation carrying the authority of someone whose knowledge had been earned through actual experience rather than studio research. Most of these European actors who come over here to make Westerns, they learn their lines, they sit on horses for the cameras, but they don't really understand what this life rather requires. Yul remained silent, his compact frame perfectly balanced in the saddle, despite the stallion's obvious eagerness to run. His riding posture carried the kind of natural authority that impressed experienced horsemen, but Wayne had seen enough Hollywood riders to know that initial appearances could be deceiving when real skills were required. "Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily a problem for movie work," Wayne acknowledged with the diplomatic courtesy that characterized his interactions with international colleagues. Different backgrounds bring different strengths to dramatic roles. But out here in real Texas, on a real ranch, with real horses and real work to be done, those differences become apparent pretty quickly. The assessment was delivered without malice, but its implications were unmistakable to anyone who understood Wayne's position as Hollywood's ultimate authority on Western authenticity. He was politely suggesting that Yul's exotic background and European training were adequate for entertainment purposes but insufficient for genuine frontier skills. "I appreciate your honesty, Duke," Yul replied quietly, his accented voice cutting through the desert heat with the controlled precision that characterized all his communication. "Perhaps you'd be willing to demonstrate what real cowboy work involves so I can understand the standards by which authentic Western skills are measured." The response carried no challenge or defensiveness, simply curiosity about capabilities that his background hadn't provided opportunity to develop. Wayne studied Yul's expression, searching for signs of sarcasm or hidden mockery, but finding only genuine interest in learning from someone whose qualifications were unquestionable. "Well," Wayne said thoughtfully, apparently pleased by what he interpreted as appropriate deference to his superior knowledge, "I suppose we could start with basic horsemanship. Real riding, not the kind of careful, walking pace they use for movie cameras." He gestured toward the open range that stretched beyond the corral, endless miles of challenging terrain that would test any rider's actual capabilities rather than their ability to look convincing during brief filming. Sequences. "That country out there will tell you everything you need to know about a man's relationship with his horse," Wayne explained. "Rocks, arroyos, steep climbs, sudden drops, the kind of ground that separates cowboys from city folks who think riding means sitting pretty while the horse does all the work." Yul nodded respectfully, understanding that he was receiving education from someone whose authority in this domain was absolute, and whose willingness to share knowledge represented more courtesy than most Hollywood foreigners received when their authenticity was being evaluated. "After that, we might try some rope work," Wayne continued, warming to his theme with the enthusiasm that always characterized his discussions of authentic Western skills. "Real roping, not the stage tricks they teach. Actors for close-up shots, catching actual cattle, working with animals that don't want to cooperate with your artistic vision." The prospect seemed to energize Wayne, who clearly relished opportunities to demonstrate capabilities that set him apart from mere performers who had learned their Western skills from dialogue coaches rather than genuine cowboy mentors. "And if you're still interested after that," Wayne concluded, "we could finish with some practical shooting, not the quick-draw nonsense that looks good on camera, but the kind of accurate long-range marksmanship that cowboys actually need when they're protecting livestock from predators." The comprehensive curriculum was designed to reveal the vast differences between authentic frontier skills and accessory, the theatrical approximations that satisfied movie audiences but wouldn't survive contact with genuine Western challenges. "That sounds like excellent education," Yul agreed immediately. "When would you like to begin?" Wayne's smile carried the satisfaction of someone whose offer had been accepted with appropriate respect for his superior knowledge and experience. "No time like the present, son. Let's see what that fancy stallion can do when he's not performing for cameras." What happened next would fundamentally alter Wayne's understanding of where authentic Western skills could originate and how they could be developed through backgrounds that had nothing to do with American frontier traditions. Yul guided the stallion toward the ranch gate with movement so subtle that the horse seemed to respond to his thoughts rather than physical cues. When they reached open country, he allowed the animal to stretch into a full gallop that revealed perfect harmony between rider and mount, not the careful control that characterized movie riding, but the kind of instinctive partnership that took years to develop. Wayne followed on his own mount, a veteran cow pony that had carried him through countless hours of actual ranch work, expecting to witness the kind of tentative riding that characterized most actors when they ventured beyond studio-controlled environments. Instead, he found himself watching horsemanship that exceeded his own considerable abilities. Yul navigated the challenging terrain with precision that seemed to anticipate obstacles before they became visible, guiding his stallion through rocky passages and across treacherous ground with confidence that could only come from extensive experience with genuinely dangerous riding conditions. When they returned to the corral 40 minutes later, Wayne's expression had shifted from patronizing authority to grudging respect for capabilities that clearly exceeded normal Hollywood standards. "That's impressive riding, son," Wayne acknowledged, his voice carrying surprise that he couldn't entirely conceal. "Where'd you learn to handle a horse like that?" "Circus training," Yul replied modestly. Bareback riding, trick riding, working with horses that had been trained to perform rather than simply carry riders. Different challenges than ranch work, but apparently some of the skills transfer to other situations. The explanation provided context that Wayne hadn't considered, revealing background that included genuine expertise with horses rather than the casual familiarity that characterized most Hollywood performers. Well, Wayne said thoughtfully, let's see how you handle rope work. The roping demonstration produced similar results. Yul's technique was unconventional by cowboy standards, but his accuracy and control revealed training that went far beyond casual instruction. When he consistently caught the practice targets that Wayne set up, his success clearly resulted from genuine skill rather than beginner's luck. Circus again? Wayne asked, though his tone had shifted from skeptical evaluation to genuine curiosity about Treba. Background that was producing unexpected competence. Trapeze work requires understanding of ropes, timing, precision, Yul explained. Different application than cattle roping, but apparently the fundamental skills adapt to new purposes when the principles are properly understood. Wayne nodded slowly, beginning to understand that his assumptions about European actors in circus backgrounds had been based on incomplete information about what such training actually involved. The shooting demonstration completed Wayne's education about the unexpected sources of authentic Western skills and fundamentally challenged his assumptions about what constituted genuine frontier capability. Yul's marksmanship with both rifle and handgun exceeded Wayne's own considerable abilities, demonstrating accuracy and consistency that could only result from extensive practice under demanding conditions. His technique was different from traditional methods, but his results spoke for themselves through performance that couldn't be argued with or dismissed. Wayne watched in growing amazement as Yul consistently hit targets at ranges where most cowboys would struggle, using weapons with which he had no supposed familiarity, but handling with genuine mastery rather than casual competence. "Where in hell did you learn to shoot like that?" Wayne asked finally, his voice carrying genuine bewilderment. "Various places," Yul replied with characteristic modesty. Circus work requires precision with many tools, including firearms for certain acts. Military service provided additional training. Survival in certain circumstances demanded skills that formal instruction couldn't provide. The explanation revealed layers of experience that Wayne hadn't considered, suggesting background that included genuine danger rather than mere performance requirements. "Son," Wayne said finally, his voice carrying the kind of respect that he normally reserved for fellow professionals whose authenticity had been proven through years of genuine Western experience. "I owe you an apology that goes beyond mere courtesy." The admission was delivered with the dignity that characterized Wayne's interactions when he discovered that his initial judgments had been based on incomplete information rather than accurate assessment. "I made assumptions about circus background and European training that were based on ignorance rather than actual knowledge about what such experience involves," Wayne continued. "You've demonstrated genuine skills that would serve you well in any Western situation, whether it's performing for cameras or handling real ranch work under actual frontier conditions." The acknowledgement represented more than mere professional courtesy. It was recognition from Hollywood's ultimate authority on Western authenticity that competence could emerge from unexpected sources when circumstances had provided proper education regardless of cultural background. "Moreover," Wayne added, "your skills in several areas exceed my own capabilities, which means you've achieved mastery that most men who claim Western expertise never actually develop." Yul accepted the acknowledgement with the quiet grace that characterized his response to both criticism and praise, understanding that he had just received validation from the ultimate source of Western authenticity in Bayaka, American popular culture. "Your testing was fair and thorough, Duke," Yul replied with equal respect. "I appreciated the opportunity to learn from someone whose knowledge of Western skills is unquestioned, and I'm honored that my background proved adequate to your exacting standards." The mutual respect that emerged from that afternoon would characterize their relationship for the remainder of both their careers, built on demonstrated competence rather than assumptions about background or nationality. Years later, Wayne would describe that day as educational rather than humbling, though careful observers noted that his subsequent comments about international actors and unconventional backgrounds carried notably more respect and considerably less condescension. "Real cowboys come in all packages," Wayne would tell interviewers who asked about his evolving perspective on Western authenticity. "What matters isn't where you learned your capabilities, but whether you can demonstrate them when circumstances require genuine performance rather than mere theatrical approximation." Yul Brynner never spoke publicly about Wayne's testing or the mutual respect that emerged from their encounter, maintaining the privacy that characterized his approach to personal relationships with fellow not-carry professionals. But those who witnessed their subsequent interactions understood that something significant had been established through methods that went beyond normal Hollywood courtesy into territory where authentic recognition was earned rather than assumed. Some authority was inherited through cultural tradition and generational expertise. Other mastery emerged from unexpected sources when necessity had been the teacher and survival had provided the curriculum. Wayne learned that afternoon that both forms deserved recognition when they produced genuine competence rather than mere theatrical approximation.